Good morning, everybody, and happy day before Thanksgiving for those of you who celebrate. And with Thanksgiving, even if you don't celebrate in the traditional way, I hope that there is always something that you can be grateful for in your life, that you can give thanks for. So as we expand out of traditional ways of thinking, right, we embrace all kinds of ways to think of these different holidays and really what we are truly thankful for, which is always close to my heart. And you all, of course, are always close to my heart. Today, we're going to play with a tennis ball again. And this time we're going to be working on hips, and we're going to be doing quite a bit with our hips. So you need a couple blocks, you need a pillow. Strap wouldn't hurt. You may not need it, but have the strap near you. And then have your tennis ball near you and come on down to your backs. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, I've been starting classes when I'm on my back, and sorry, I'm just going to adjust the lighting a little bit because it looks kind of dark there to me. When I started my back lately, I have been keeping my knees bent so that I can let the muscles of my back kind of adjust to the idea of being on the floor, or specifically being on a harder surface. So let the hands rest on your belly and let the shoulders descend down toward the floor. And start to find your breath. And let the muscles of the face soften, let the eyes soften. The elbows are soft to the floor, and you feel your feet on the floor. Your feet are either hips width apart, or the feet are wide and the knees are coming in towards center. And then take a few breaths here to truly contemplate what you are thankful for. And it can be simple, it can be more profound. It can be about people or animals or the place you live, or the fact that we are here able to practice yoga together. It can be that you woke up this morning and were able to take a deep breath, or that the sun is out. I think even during our times that are so trying, we can find something to be thankful for. Just a couple more breaths right here. Let this feeling of gratitude just fill your body. Feel it move into the cells of your body and nourish them. And then release that thoughts. Separate the knees if they're together. Take the feet wide on your yoga mat and just slowly start to move the knees side to side, just side to side. Does not have to be far down to the floor. It can just be easy. We're going to be working quite a bit on hips today, so we're going to start by warming them up. And we're just checking it out. And maybe you smile a little bit. Maybe you have socks on. maybe you're nice and toasty. It was 27 degrees this morning. So I'm grateful for the heat that I was able to turn on. The next time the knees are over to the right, pause and just feel gravity move you into the stretch. So don't push or pull or lengthen or anything, just like gravity. Take your body where it's going to go. And then take the right or the left arm and stretch it out to the left to create a little bit of a twist here, just opening up this whole left side of the body. Find your breath. And then release the left arm back. Take the knees to center, go the other way, both knees pointing toward the left. The right arm stretches up and out. And let gravity take that knee, that thigh, the hip, wherever it will go very organically, very naturally, not pushing or pulling, just letting it be. And always with this kind of work, if the knees are bothering you in any position, you straighten or bend until they are not hurting or not causing you distress. And take the knees to center, both feet together, the knees out to the side, Badakanasana. Maybe you rock those knees side to side. Starting off really easy today. We have enough potential stress in our day getting ready for tomorrow, depending on what you're doing. So let's just chill. Let's just relax today a little bit. And then take both arms out to maybe a cactus pose, maybe a soft cactus pose, and bring the knees to stillness. Bring the feet together, press into your feet, and feel the hips and the glutes start to get active. And then let go of that press. Good. Again, squeeze in. Exhale out. Squeeze in. Exhale, let it go. 2 more, squeeze in. Exhale, let go. Good, this time squeeze in. If you're okay, maybe lift the hips a couple of inches off the floor. A little bit more activity. Again, no pain. Watch the ankles, press the feet together. That's going to keep the ankles from caving. Breathe, everybody. Squeeze the hips, squeeze the glutes. And exhale, hips back down to the floor. The knees come back to center and draw your knees to your chest. And rock a little bit side to side. And then take one hand on each knee and do some knee circles. And how you do your knee circles is going to be up to you. Maybe you're circling both in one direction. Maybe you're circling them in opposite directions. Just see. And breathe and notice. And then bring your knees to your chest. Take the hands behind both thighs and take both legs up to the ceiling. Now, you should not need your strap, but if your hamstrings are super tight and just having your legs up like this is really hard, you can take that strap very lightly around both feet just to help you hold the legs up for now. So you decide. It's a whole you decide kind of class, right? So just breathe and then maybe circle your ankles. Circle the other way. Realize as you're circling, you are activating all kinds of muscles around the feet, the ankles, the shins, up past the knees. Good. And then with those hands behind your thighs or your strap, take the legs out nice and wide. And breathe. I'm so close to the wall. And bring your legs together and open them out. Good. Bring them together. Open them out. And together. Open. One more right here together and then open. Remember to support those legs. If your lower back is chatty, you can always take the hands underneath, give your low backs a little bit more relief. And then from that wide position, I want you to bend your knees as if you were in a wide leg Badakanasana without the feet touching. Okay, so they're separate. And then draw the knees together, take them up to the ceiling. Bring them out wide, bend the knees while the legs are still wide, bring them into center. All right, you got this. So straight up, out to the sides, bend the knees down and in. Two more, reach them up. Exhale out, bring them back in and close them. Last one, bring them up, bring them out, bend your knees, and bring them in. Now reverse, take them out to the sides, straighten them out, bring them in and down, bring them out. You probably don't need your hands here, but if you do, use them. And down, bring the knees wide, open. This is really one of my favorite simple hip warm-ups. You might start feeling those hips. Good, last one, bring them out, and together. And bend your knees. Good. Circle those ankles. And then put your right foot on the floor. Take your left ankle to your right knee. Bring the knees up towards center and come into your first figure four. Take my socks off and breathe. So in your figure four, maybe you rock a little bit side to side, right? Because as we stretch through all of the glute muscles, all of the gluteal muscles, 3 of those, plus the deep hip rotators, there's 6 of those. I mean, there's tons of stuff going on there. And maybe you can find a little different angle that feels kind of like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that was tight, but look at that. Good. And then sway your hips or your knees toward the right a little bit. Engage the belly here because you got to use that core to hold, but then feel a little bit deeper stretch in the outer left hip. That's it. Big deep breath. And take it to center. Take your right inner ankle toward your left knee. Keep the hips from splaying. And one way to do that is to take your left hand on your left knee, press the left knee away from you. At the same time, you're bringing your inner right ankle toward that knee. Okay, a little precursor to fire log pose, right? So when we get to fire log, and hopefully we will, if fire log is not your cup of tea, you come back to your back and you play here, right? So one really nice option, still getting that juicy stretch out of your left hip, still getting some movement there, getting oxygen, blood flow all through there, but maybe without some of the angst. Good, release that, cross your knees, one on top of the other, just drop your heels. So most of us can sit. If we were seated, we'd have our legs crossed. So again, precursor to cow face legs, cow face pose. So the knees are there and we start to just move the heels away from the glutes. Keep the heels wide and just bend and straighten, okay? So it's straightening them out to the sides a little bit, again, more cow face, and then dropping them back down, 1 or 2 more. Yep, your hips are probably already chatting. And then release that pose, bring your knees to your chest. Your left foot goes back to the floor, your right ankle goes to the left knee. Here we are on this side. and figure 4. So pause for a moment, just get a sense of how it feels, maybe start to rock a little bit side to side. You can even do little small circles here, all around the sacrum, all around that hard, bony lower part of your spine. Kind of feels good too. All of these are like little baby massages to me. And then come back to center, start to tilt the knees toward the left until you feel that stretch in the outer right hip. Feel that, engage the belly a little bit. We're working with the obliques here to hold us suspended sideways. Smile, breathe. Be grateful to yourself for taking this time out of your busy schedule to do a yoga class with me. I so appreciate it. And then come back to center. You're going to take that left inner ankle toward the right knee, but you'll notice that right knee wants to come in towards center as well. So right hand to right inner knee, the left ankle toward the knee. It might go a decent amount. It might not go hardly at all. Again, remember with hip work that it can be really tricky depending on how your thigh bones sit in your hip sockets. It really makes a difference. And once I learned that as a yoga teacher, I figured out why some people could do some things and other people could not do those things based on the direction of their hips. It was fascinating, bright light bulb moment for me as a teacher. And release that, cross the knees, let the heels hang down by your hips, and then just straighten them out and bend them again. And straighten out and bend, straighten and bend. One more here, just straighten them out and bend them, bring those knees toward chest, release those knees, straighten one leg and then the other leg. Whew. And just feel that, right? And then from this position, your feet roughly hips width apart, squeeze those glutes in, squeeze the hips in, get those legs active. You should actually feel yourself lift away from the floor a little bit and then exhale down. Good. Again, squeeze in, squeeze in, squeeze in. Hold this position if you can. Press down into your right hip, lift your left foot off the floor just a few inches, but keep everything active. Yep. And release that, keep the squeeze, lift your right leg just a couple of inches off the floor. And exhale and let it all go. Yeah, woo, feel that. Lovely, lovely. All right, find a little warm up before we get to our tennis ball here. Take your hands behind your head, bend the knees to 90 degrees. We're taking right elbow to left knee and straightening the right leg. Okay, a little bit of core warm up here, but also getting those hips active. So switch and switch. Don't pull on your head. Those hands are there to support your neck. They're not there to yank your head up toward your knee, right? You should be able to let go without changing your position, but just for supporting that head. All right. So we're going to do 10 fast, 10 medium, and 10 slow. I know. Here we go. Ready? Here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slow it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Super slow. 1, hold. 2, hold. 3, 4, 5, making room. 6, 7, 8, 9. Are you with me? And 10. And let go. And just feel that lovely belly of yours. All right. Feet to the floor. Grab your tennis ball. I am going to sit up for a moment because I just want to make sure we have our landmarks understood. So, and if you want to sit up for a second, go ahead and sit up. So if you put your hands on your hips, and you can do this laying down, right? Those hands land on the upper part of the pelvis, the ilium, right? On both sides. So that is kind of our landmark. And if you put your thumb, if you feel where your thumbs are, those thumbs move in toward the SI joints. And then there's that lovely triangular sacrum right here. It's the base of the spine, just before the tailbone. So we're all along the sacrum. And if you feel, even if you're laying down, on the sides of the sacrum, if you feel, that's where some of the gluteal muscles and some of the rotators draw in toward the sacrum. Okay, they attach there. So we're going to work along that line, and we're going to work all along one side of the glutes and then the other side. So having explained all that, I tried to think of a way to put a chart up there, but decided against it. So you're going to take your lovely tennis ball and you're going to roll to one side, and you're going to stick that tennis ball below the line of that ilium, below the line of that pelvic rim. So it's not on the bone, it's just below that. And again, if you put your hands there, the tennis ball is going to be below that. And then start to just go along the base of the rim of the pelvis on this side. And for me, my hips are lifted off the floor. Tennis ball helps with that. And I'm controlling the weight on the tennis ball. If I push into the feet more, there's less weight. If I don't push into the feet, there's more weight. And I'm slowly going to make my way. I love this, by the way. I'm a bit crazy that way, but I'm going to slowly work my way down the glutes. If you have an injury here, or you get to a point where there's like pain, like, you know, that kind of pain, don't put so much weight there, or don't go to that spot. I really don't believe, I mean, I know we all have battle scars, and so we're all going to have some discomforts and maybe even some tender, painful areas, but there's a difference between good, quote unquote, pain and not good. Don't go to the not good space. And then maybe circle around that tennis ball around the hip, just on that side, all around the glute on that side. Oh, and you can go down lower, right? Getting down into the tailbone, getting down to the ischial tuberosities, the ischium, where the pelvis, where those rims of the pelvis come down and meet. For me, more tender. And that's also where those deep lateral hip rotators are. You've all heard, I'm sure, of the piriformis, right? So getting down into those spots. And then work your way back up, even if you have to use your hand to get there. And pause toward the side of that. I don't think I said right side. I'm on my right side. So whichever side you're on, you're going to pause it toward the edge of that. And then you're going to start to roll over, not on bone, right? So stay off of the hip joint, but into that lovely little muscle called the tensor fascia lata. It's the one I've talked about that is like, they call it a dancer's muscle. If you see ballet dancers or any kind of professional dancers, they have like this ball on the side of their hip, the tensor fascia lata. Whew. So you're above the hip joint. Now this area can be really tender. We start to get into those attachments. You decide how much you want to roll onto that hip. And let me give you a second option. If you come up on your elbow, okay, there's that tennis ball. If you come up on your elbow, you might be able to just kind of control the weight of it a little bit more if it's tender. So just start to work your way toward the top of that muscle, toward the belly of the muscle. I know. This is usually more tender for folks than even into the glute muscles. Maybe you find a tender spot and you just hang out. This is not for everybody. So if you've had enough, you just take that tennis ball out. And then for those of you who can, I want you to lay down. Oh, I'm on the tennis ball. I don't know how much you can see it there. I tried to wear colors that you could make out the tennis ball, but there it is. Oh, if that's too much, don't do it. And then roll slightly forward. Reach behind you, take the tennis ball out and pause and just get a sense of that. Good. And then press yourself up. I want you to press into your hand and stretch out that side. Awesome. Let's go to the other side. So I'm on my left side, laying back down. I'm going to take the tennis ball in my left hand, lean over to the right a little bit, and just set that tennis ball in there so that it's got some purchase. It's below that rim of the ilium of the pelvic bones. And I'm going to start same thing. Think of this as an exploration. If your hips are down on the floor more, or you're pressing into your feet more, again, it won't be as intense. So just check it out. So on this side for me, it's way more tender toward the outside of those glute muscles than on the inside. So I'm going to play here for a little bit and then walk my way down. You could do this every day. If you go too deep, you're going to feel a little bruised. So just be mindful there. Don't overdo it. And then walk your way down the tennis ball. Get down all along that sacrum, all along that outer rim of the sacrum. Oh, yeah. All right, here comes the fun part. So we're going to just start to lean over to, for me, the left. If you're on your left side, toward the left. Woo. Find your breath. My left knee drops down. I'm starting to tap into that muscle. Again, this side is more tender than the other. So I think I'm going to come right up on elbow and control the weight of it a little bit more. Oh, yeah. And those are all interesting to me. It's always interesting to see which side is tighter, which side maybe is carrying more tension, because it gives us some information about maybe the balance or imbalance in our bodies. Yeah. And if you have time, throughout the week, just grab your tennis ball and play. Like, explore what happens if I lay on this tennis ball and I start to try to move this knee, right? This bottom knee. Right now, I'm really working deep into the muscle. All right. So tennis ball or not, you're going to lay down on your side. And breathe. Let the breath do its work. Let the breath do its magic. And then lean forward. Reach behind you. Take the tennis ball out. Pause. Good. Press yourself up on one side. Lift up to the stretch. And release it. Woo! And stay seated. That's awesome. Some of my friends would go, there's something seriously wrong with you. Me, meaning me. All right, so you got your tennis ball. This part's easy. You're going to just take that tennis ball. Do you remember how we did, if you took the class where we're doing upper body, where we're kneading dough under our hands? Okay, so same thing here, one or two hands. You're going to start to work down those thighs. Inner thigh can go right up and around that knee joint. Again, I don't tend to put anything hard on bone, so I would not go to bone here. I'm just working through the muscles, the muscle attachments. Outside thigh, that iliotibial band that goes all the way from that tensor fascia lata, that muscle up in the hip down to the knee, can be super tender, especially for my tennis players out there. You know who you are. This muscle can really get tight from all of the short stop and turns. So for me, right near the knee on that outside is pretty tender. So I'm going there. Good. And again, we could spend an hour and a half just playing with the tennis ball. So I will move on, go to the other leg. Maybe when we're in person, we can do some tennis ball work, foam roller work. Oh, there's so much. There's so much. Good. Inner thigh up to the top of the thigh. Think of it as giving yourself a loving massage. I always joke that you can name your props because that way you send them a little bit more love, right? So you can name your little tennis ball. Breathe. All right, and release that. Same tennis ball, take it between your feet. Squeeze the tennis ball, Badakanasana. You can even lean back here. I am just squeezing the heck out of that tennis ball between my feet. And then release. Good, and then squeeze. It's right in the arch of my feet. I'm just giving it as much of a squeeze as I can, hitting all those little trigger points down there. And release. Good, last one, squeeze in. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And release it. All right, set that lovely tennis ball aside, grab a hold of your block and have a seat on top of your block. So pretty much for everybody, you're going to be on the lowest setting. If you don't feel like that block is wide enough for you, you can set two side by side. If you don't feel like it's high enough, set two of them on second level, one in front of the other. What I want you to do is create a stable base to sit on. Okay, so we're up on that block. And I want you to put your feet on the floor, your hands to your knees, and I want you to squeeze your hips. Isometric work here. You're pulling back, cramp. You're pulling back on your heels. Funny, my thigh cramped, or my calf muscle cramped up. So you're pulling back on your heels, you're squeezing your glutes in. And release. Good. One more right here. Just squeeze and release. One, you're going to stay there. Two, if you can cross your legs on a block, it should be easier for some. If you can't because of knees, no matter where you put your feet, then you're staying square. Now you're sitting on the block. Your glutes, squeeze up. Squeeze up as much as you can. I was going to say squeeze up so much that you feel yourself get taller. So really activating the glute muscles, the hip muscles, and then let go. Like an elevator, squeeze and lift up. Squeeze, 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 maybe a little bit of Mula Bandha activity, right? So take not just the squeeze of the glutes, but a toning up of the pelvic floor muscles. And let go. Squeeze. And let go. Two more. Squeeze up. Again, one of my favorite hip exercises is this one, just to work those muscles. And let go. Last one, squeeze up. This might be like a part 1, part 2 kind of class. And let go. Good. And then take your left leg and bring it out in front of you. Flex the foot, watch your knee. Release your left leg. I want you to step over it and lift up really tall. I'm still sitting on my block. Lift up nice and tall. Wrap your left arm around the right knee and come into a twist. And breathe. Find your twist. And then release and come center. Stay right here. Some of you are going to stay with this bottom leg straight. Some of you are going to be able to bend that bottom leg, bring the heel close to the block. Okay, variation of a seated twist. Lift up nice and tall, plant the foot to the floor, wrap the arm around, come back into a twist. If you want a little bit more, the elbow goes to the outer part of the knee, and breathe. And come back to center. Release the bottom leg, release the top leg, and switch. Leaving the right leg straight, left leg bends, your foot is on the floor. Again, for my knee folks, you can always move that foot out. And if you do, maybe you flex the foot instead to dig into the heel. Lift up nice and tall, wrap that arm around, and come into twist. For everybody, that straight bottom leg should be nice and active. That's it. And release, come back to center, pause, either come back to that twist the same way or bend the bottom leg this time. Lift up nice and tall. You either wrap the hand around or the outside knee. Ooh, yeah, feel that nice twist, nice stretch for that back shoulder. One more. And come back to center. Good. Straighten both legs. Flex both feet. Tip forward on your block so that you have pulled all the flesh away. My back end of my block is actually lifted a little bit. Be careful. Don't like slide off. If you think you're going to slide off, then sit more firmly on your block. So feel that as we tilt the block forward, we tilt the pelvis forward, and we can bring the hands forward into a start of a forward fold with the pelvis forward, which keeps the lower back neutral, which helps us move through a forward fold a lot safer than if we were really rounded in our low backs, which I don't care for much at all. And we're all different, right? We're all different. So for you, maybe that bit of rounding in the low back is no problem at all. For those of you with low back stuff, it can be real challenging. So I'm just tilting on that block. I'm kind of playing with gravity here. How far can I go before I actually do come to the floor? By the way, didn't think about that until just now. If you happen to go up on a higher block, you should not be tilting. That block should be low. Goodness gracious. Sorry about that. And release, slide yourself back up, bend your knees, take your hips off your block. And then take both blocks right to the front of your mat. And come to your hands and your knees. Woo. Good, roll it out. I'm just gonna pull this crazy hair back that came out earlier. So on your hands and knees, on table pose, let's start to warm up just a little bit more. We got some more work to do. So cat and cow pose, starting there, just getting that spine all shaken out. Big deep breath, couple more. And then neutral spine, you can take your hands right to your blocks. I've got mine on second level, and step forward with your right leg into a low lunge. Check your back knee, right? You really don't want to be on the very top of that patella, that kneecap. That can feel really crappy. So maybe you just move to the top of that front knee, front ankle, nice and lined up. Shoulders are open up. You can take those blocks higher if you want to get that front chest open. And just breathe here for a second and feel that. Now, I want you to really engage the back glute. This is important. So when we talk about pigeon pose, which I don't teach a lot without visualizing, without seeing my students, a lot of times in pigeon, we dump into this front hip, even in lunges. It's not even pigeon, but even in lunges. And I'm not a fan of that. I used to do that. I didn't know any better. And I started getting a lot of front hip pain. So now I make sure that the opposing muscle is contracted. And I hope that makes sense for you. So I'm not dumping into the front hip, the front of that hip joint. I'm keeping a nice contraction in the opposing muscle, activating the back foot, right? Pressing the foot in and feeling a lot more stable for me in my pose. Hands come to knee, lift up, and take the arms up. And I know at least one of you here today, you and I have had this conversation about pigeon pose and about that mindfulness to not dump in. All right, so release that, press the hips back, switch sides, right leg back, left leg forward. And again, check the back kneecap, try not to be smack on top of it, right? There's a difference between being right on top of it and being kind of forward of it. Hands are on your blocks. First, you're going to find the position of your lunge, and then you're going to activate the back glute muscles. You're going to be more mindful of how you do your yoga pose, not just what pose you're doing. Feel that. Hands to knees, maybe the chest lifts a little bit more. Back glute active, take the arms up. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And then exhale your hands to the floor and step back with your left leg. Good, set the blocks aside for a moment. I want you to plant your hands, come to downward facing dog, pedal out your feet. Good, find a good down dog. Take the feet wider on your mat. Inhale to tippy toes, exhale, tap your knees. Lift it back up, down dog. Good, exhale, tap your knees. Inhale it, down dog. Exhale, tap. Inhale, lift. Two more, down and lift. Last one, down we go. And lift, downward facing dog. Bring the feet somewhat back to hips width apart. Step forward with your right leg. And then turn yourself around until you're in a wide leg forward fold. Wide leg forward fold. Isometrically squeeze those legs together. And then press them apart, isometric. Squeeze the inner thighs towards each other. And spread them apart. Good, one more. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And let go. Plant your hands, turn the toes out a little bit, bend your knees. One hand to each knee and come on up. Whew. We got so much to do in so little time. I got to get on it. I just want to make sure we are plenty warmed up. All right, so last one here. Little bit of goddess pose work. Again, you watch your knees. Toes are pointed out somewhat. Take the arms up. They call this 5-pointed star. From here, I want you to squeeze the heck out of your hips and glutes. Just squeeze. You can also think of this as Superman pose. Ah, right? Superwoman pose. Find your strength, find your power. Good. And then with mindfulness, hands to heart, bend your knees, come into a squat. Where are you in your squat? Your squat can be up here where your knees are barely bent. They can be nice and deep. What I always ask of you is to watch those knees curling in, press them out. Imagine that these thighs, these outer thighs, are pressing into a wall. Yeah, right. And sometimes to do that, we have to narrow our stance, or we got to sit back more, or we don't bend as much. So breathe. I know. Press into the full ball mound of your feet. Make sure the pinkies and the big toes are taking the weight. Press through that inner line of your foot. Elbows to your sides. Maybe you take thumb and index fingers together. Find your breath. One, you're here. Two, you've come out because that's enough. Trust your body. Always, always, always. Right? How do we find that line between challenging, trusting, and overdoing, right? Where is that for us? Let's cultivate that. Let's really cultivate that through the end of this year. And stand up, shake it out, walk it together, and breathe. All right, so pigeon pose. We're going to do this in a couple of ways. So let's start by just coming down to the floor really mindfully. So from the front of your mat, let's inhale up, exhale down, step back to downward facing dog. Pause here, make sure you're all stretched out, and then lower your knees to the floor and pause for a minute. I'm going to give you a first option, and I want everybody to do the first option. So take your two blocks end to end. And I don't know which way is going to be best to show this to you. So I'll start this way. Actually, I'll start with it out on the side. And then take your blanket or towel and just lay that over your blocks so that you clearly delineate the blocks, but they're a little bit cushioned. And then I want you to come up to your blocks and have a seat. And have a seat in such a way that your entire right thigh, whichever side you're on, I'm on my right, your entire thigh from your hip, from your butt to your knee is on your blocks, okay? The rest of your leg is pretty much straight to the side of your mat, and I'll turn around and show it to you on the other side. What you do with your back leg is going to depend on your knees. So for some, your back knee, your back leg is kind of more of a 90-90, and you're going to be here in your pigeon pose. I find this works really well for folks that have knee compression issues. If you can from here, you're going to take your back leg and walk it back so that you are more back leg in line with your hip. And then if you can still, you're going to start to drop the right or the left hip. If your right leg's on a block, your left hip until your hips even out. So this is a bit of an elevated pigeon pose. You'll notice you're not dropping, you're not sunk into the front of your left hip. You've got lots of space here, and you're just checking out if this is going to work for you. If you're still not sure, I'm going to come to the other side just so you can see it from that other vantage point. So you're here, right? Got that block here, nice and cushioned. And I'm just going to see where my hips are willing to go. For some of you, this leg is really pretty 90-degree to keep all that compression out of the knee. For some of you, it's going to be down closer to the other thigh, more pigeon-like for some, okay? And you're just going to check it out and breathe. Maybe you flip your toes under of your back leg and activate that leg, which activates the glutes so the leg is more straight. Good. Still on this side, relaxing the knee. Maybe you come down to your elbows. That's it. And then I want you to press up. Carefully, you're coming off those blocks, step back to a table pose. And then switch to the other side. And for those of you who are taking this class, I would love feedback on this version. I like it a lot. I've done it for a lot of folks with knee issues in particular. All right, so let's go the other side. You're on your left, I'm back on my right because I just switched. I've got that knee supported, that thigh supported. Either the back leg is more bent, more of, they call this a star pose. So maybe it's that, or you take the leg straight back and start to level out the hips. The hands come forward. We wiggle a little bit side to side. We think about this. Now, some of you who do regular pigeon might not like this at all. but I do invite you to explore it. Okay, just check it out, see what you think. Maybe you come down to your elbows. Breathe. And then press into your hands. Come off your block and slide back to table pose. And then move your blanket and your block out of the way. Keep one block nearby. Come down to your bellies and into Sphinx Pose. Why Sphinx Pose here, right? What sense is that? Because ideally, initially, Pigeon Pose is a back bend. So I just want to make sure, one, your belly is open and your lower back is warmed up. Good, so you're here, I'm just rocking side to side, tapping into those deep belly muscles, stretching it all out. Maybe you come down low, spread the arms out and lift up a little bit, maybe not. And then lower back down, press up to table pose. And then downward facing dog. Now, those of you who like that option that we just did, you're going to come back down to your knees and set that up, set the blocks back up for your right side. For the rest of you, you're going to look through your hands and you're almost going to do a knee slide forward. I kind of like this way to come into it as well. So I have my knee on the floor. I'm walking my left leg back, and at the same time, I'm just going to pivot my right heel toward my left hip. Okay. And again, I'm not positive how much you can discern here if this is new for you. So I've slid it forward, I've turned it out to the side, and then walked my left leg back. And I'm still holding up on my hands because I want to check this pose out. What's not good is to linger in space. So if I cannot get my hip to the floor, my right hip to the floor, I'm going to take a block or a pillow under my right hip. Okay, you can see it right here so that it is supported. Second thing I'm going to do is what we talked about earlier. I'm going to squeeze my left glute so that I don't dump into my left front hip. Some of you are super flexible here and can come all the way down to the floor. Some of you are going to have a block under your right hip. Some of you might have a blanket under your left leg to give you more support there. That's also a really sweet option. Wherever you are, don't hang in your joint. If you don't feel supported in Pigeon Pose, change something. And that's where the props come in. That's where the blankets come in, the blocks come in. You could have a blanket under your right hip, okay? And then start to check it out. So like I said, Pigeon is first and foremost a hip opener and a back bend. So we are lifted up. Maybe you're on your fingertips, maybe not. Right? And then maybe you come down to your elbows. And again, some of you are so open here, or your hips are angled at such a place that this right foot can come parallel with the short edge of your mat. I can do this on my left side, but I can't do it on my right side. Doesn't feel good. So I keep it a little bit more toned in, heel to hip. And the other secret to Pigeon is if you're leaning on your right side, you want to lean toward your left side to level out the hips. Big deep breath. All right. So whether you're on blocks or doing Pigeon, I want you to press into your hands. Flip your back toes under for those in regular Pigeon. For those not, go to table pose. Lift up, down dog. Shake it out. Find your breath. And then same thing the other side. You're gonna slide. You're like doing a slide into a base, home base, right? Baseball. So you're gonna slide that knee in, and then bring the heel toward the right hip. Slide the right leg back, and decide on this side. So initially, I use my arms a lot. I keep myself lifted to see where my hips are today, right? Yesterday was yesterday. Maybe I take a block and put it under those sit bones, which is also a great way to warm into the pose. Maybe I don't need that. Maybe I want a blanket under there instead. Just need a little extra space. Can you find your happy place in a pose like this? And that, again, props. Love my props, right? If you can find your happy place, then you can explore. If you're struggling, you can't. So find where you're at today. See if you can level out the hips. See if you can activate the back glute, even a little bit. It's almost like doing a little bit of a cat pose, just tiny. And breathe. Back bend first. Maybe the elbows second. You can come all the way down to chest, right? Sleeping pigeon. And just think about it. How does it feel? If you feel your knee, sometimes you can feel that back knee. Just flip your toes under and let your toes are flipped under so that leg is more active. Not lifting the knee, just getting some of the pressure off of it. Big deep breath. All right, and then whether you're on blocks or not, you're gonna press back into your hands. You're gonna get that leg out from under you, maybe table, maybe downward facing dog. Shake it out. And then lower your knees to the floor and have a seat. Bring the soles of the feet together and find Badakanasana. And breathe. And then bring the legs together, straighten your legs, Dandasana, staff pose. Grab one of your blocks, take it right between your shins and squeeze your block. That's it. So that was a kind of a quick pigeon. We may play with that more later again based on any feedback that you want to give me, but I did want to move on before we spend all of class there. So take your block and have a seat again. Put it underneath your butt and come on up. Good. And then lean back. Again, be mindful and cross your right leg over your left. So as if you were sitting in a chair, you can even move the legs out some. And think of cow face pose. So cow face pose, the knees are crossed, the feet come down along the sides of the hip. Being on block helps a lot, okay? Because it gets those hips elevated, gives these legs a little bit more room. One, you can stay right here, okay? If you can get to this place and this feels okay, then stay. Otherwise, I'm just going to start to separate the feet away from each other. Sorry, grab a second block. Forgot about that. Start to separate the feet. And then maybe I take the second block under my bottom knee. Again, in elevation of cow face. Now my knees are resting. I feel pretty supported here. I might have to go higher. I want something under the knees to help support the knees so they're not just hanging in space. And even that feels really nice. I kind of like this version. Now, what I've learned about cow face is the heels closer to the butt. As long as the knees can handle it, easier. The heels further away, a little bit more challenging. So if you don't need your block, lean forward, take the block out from your hips and have a seat. Again, maybe your block is under your knees, maybe not. You get to play. Maybe your heels are tucked in really tight, a little bit easier. Maybe the heels are moving out a little further away. I always think of these as like little ears of those cows. And maybe your knees are not stacked. Maybe you are more separated, giving you so many options today, probably too many for one class with a tennis ball taking up all that time. So I may come back and visit this. Good. So if you can find a place for your legs that makes sense for you, I want you to take the arms out. Your right leg is on top, so take your right arm, internally rotate it, and take it behind your back. Take the left arm, reach it up to the ceiling. Reach those hands back and behind. Maybe you touch them, maybe you don't. Again, you can use a strap here if you would rather have some kind of bind, but you don't need to. If you're holding fingers and you feel really strained somewhere, let the fingers go. Check the head, see if it's tucking down. If it is, try to tuck it back so it's neutral. Cow face pose, everybody. And there's this whole thing about the arms or the ears and the knees or the no, I don't know. I have never been able to visualize this as many times as it's been explained to me, that this somehow is supposed to look like a cow. So smile, breathe your own cow image into this pose. Find your breath. Release the arms. Shake it out. Lean back. Release the legs, straighten them out. Dandasana pose, get good and active. Here we are, starting over. Sit on your block. This time you're crossing your left over your right. I guarantee you, for most of you, one side is going to be different than the other. So I'm just going to check this side out. How's this feel? Feeling pretty happy here. So I'm going to start to walk the feet away. I'm going to see what I need. Maybe the knees come to the floor. Maybe I need a block under there to pause at that spot and see how that feels. Maybe the heels are super close in, maybe not. By the way, and I didn't give this one, and I'm sorry again for thinking a little bit out of step. You can do this on the floor, on your back. You can do this, you can go to to figure four like we did in the beginning, or you can cross the knees like we did in the beginning. So you can do that without the strain in the hips and the back. All right, so where are you? Maybe you take one block out, maybe you take both blocks out, maybe you shift so that your sit bones are on the floor, but the block is under your knees. Maybe your knees are stacked, maybe they're more separate. Maybe the feet are out to the sides more, maybe they're tucked in toward the hips more. If you see a picture of Iyengar in this pose, he's actually sitting on his feet. It's really bizarre. I tried it. Didn't like it. All right, your left knee is down, your left arm goes out, internally rotate, and bring that left arm behind you. Take the right arm out, external rotation, bring it up. See if you can find your fingertips. Maybe you can. Maybe you can't. I say so many things that probably, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say, like, I really didn't like that pose. But when we're being truthful, when we're being honest with our own bodies, we find what works and we find the modifications, and we trust our bodies and we trust the signals that we're getting over and over and over again. And soon it becomes way more easy, right? To go, this is okay for me and this isn't. So trust, trust, trust. Big deep breath. Make sure the head isn't tucked down to your chin, or your chin isn't tucked down to your chest. And breathe. And then release, shake it out, lean back, undo your legs, straighten those legs, point and flex. All right, so fire log is going to wait for another day because we will go way over time if I go through that one. So remind me and we can do that another time. So I want you to take your blocks and bring them out of the way and grab your blanket if you have one and lay it sideways on your mat. So you have some off to one side of your mat and some off to the other side of your mat. And take the time there to do that. And then lay down on your mat so that the blanket is just above your hip line and down past your sacrum, somewhere in that middle space. And then draw your knees to your chest. Take the elbows to the outsides of your legs and bring the hands back to the center and just hold on to your fingers or interlace your hands depending on how much space you have there. And then press the sacrum back down to the blanket and start to straighten the lower legs toward the ceiling. So a variation of happy baby. Shoulders are on the floor, your sacrum is on the floor, you're not over rolling. Press the knees against the arms and resist. And then release the press. Do one more here. Just press the knees against the inner elbows and release. And then let the back round to your comfort level and to either stay here, happy baby, or release those arms. The arms go inside the legs and you either grab your big toes or the outsides of your feet. The knees descend toward the side body. Don't over round, just try to keep a bit of grounding there. And you're in a happy baby. Breathe, maybe rock a little side to side. And then bring the soles of the feet together. Hold on to those feet or shins. Let the knees press out to the side. So a variation of supine Badakanasana. You're just letting the knees press away from you as the heels stay in. Take a deep breath. And then bring your knees back to center. Stretch your left leg out really, really long, like really long. Hold the right knee in toward chest. You can hold underneath your knee. And then switch sides, bring the left in, stretch the right really long. So a lot of hip work today, even though there was a lot of splaining at the same time. And then slide that right leg to the right edge of your mat and slide the left leg to the left edge of your mat. And take your blanket. And I want you to very purposefully squeeze it tight like a little papoose. Reach that edge over to one side, grab the other side, and reach it all the way, as snug as you can make it for you. If you've got a super long blanket, you're tucking it under and you're making yourself into a little papoose here. And then you're letting go. There was a reason that babies are swaddled. And sometimes we can just kind of swaddle ourselves to bring ourselves comfort and this feeling of safety and congruity. And after all of that hip work, letting the hips once again feel together and safe and strong, I guess, is a really nice way to send that message of love and gratitude to the body. So close your eyes. Let the breath be long. Let your exhale be longer than your inhale. We calm the nervous system. We get back into our bodies. And in this Shavasana, I want you to first truly feel gratitude for yourself, for your body, for your mind, for your heart, for the ways that you are human. In other words, I really want you to love yourself in this moment. Allow yourself to feel kindness and compassion for yourself and all that you are and all of your mistakes and all of your lessons. Find gratitude. Love yourself. And then allow that love to spread out from your body and into your room. And into your house and anyone who might be in your house. And feel gratitude for the air that we are breathing, the chance to make it through another day. The world such as it is, feel gratitude for it all. And then let that gratitude settle on the whole world. You a part of it, in it, of it. For those of you ready, just start to wiggle your toes and fingers. Bend your knees. Leave the blanket in place if you have it. Just leave it snugged up around your hips. And then draw your knees toward your chest. Roll over to one side, keeping that blanket nice and snug. Roll the knees to one side or the other. And very slowly, come on up. I'm going to scoot closer. And then bring your hands to your heart and bow in gratitude for all things, even when it's more challenging. Namaste.
Namaste.